Let's have a look at a workflow to complete a full vehicle. We're going to look at this SUV and start with the wheel arches, model between them, and then move along to the front, hood, greenhouse, and the rear of the vehicle. In the file, I've included, here, let's first turn down our canvas, and I've included some wheels to help with the placement of the width. We're going to go to the side view, drop a circle, and we'll scale that. Then we'll go to our attach, detach, and detach it right at the lower rocker. And we'll pick our curve, delete. We'll just make a few changes in this area. We have a couple options when we extrude our first subdivision surfaces from this. We could convert this curve to a 1 degree curve, and that will give us really accurate representation of where all the edges and CVs will be placed. Or inside of the extrude tool, if we select our curve and let's switch this to normal, extrude this out. There's division options here, so I can increase and lower our divisions. We're going to go with 8, and I can also set that to parametric or uniform, so the spacing around that curve. So we'll just stick with uniform with 8. That's perfect. Let's, I forgot to move it out to our edge. Probably should move the curve out to the edge, but just the surfaces are fine for this example. Let's create a new layer, curves. And we'll assign that curve. And so we'll take the front wheel arch, copy, paste. Let's create a new layer, body. And we'll slide that to the back. And at this point, if we needed to do, any scaling or repositioning, we certainly can do that. So let's go ahead and just change that a little bit. Take a second just to reposition some of these points, just to get the initial flow as accurate as possible. And we'll do that here. And then I'm going to pick the edge loop for both of them, and we'll do pretty much the exact same thing. Extrude out normal, and that looks good. And then, maybe we even tip it in just a little bit. We're going to make adjustments as we go, so, we can leave it at that. I am going to fix the lower section here. Again, just to help keep everything flowing down the character lines of our drawing. Great. Now this one, because we want a little bit of attitude between these 2 points, I'm going to just move that and move that just a tad bit. All right, to connect in between these wheel arches, we will use the bridge tool, and it's pretty straightforward. Just pick these 3, or how many ever you have, and create a bridge. And then I'm going to add 4 or 5 divisions to get our body sign. Now for the front, let's go ahead and pick, I'm going to switch this to subdivision edges. We want to make sure we're grabbing the cage and not the actual limit surface. Switch this to normal, and I'll pull this out. We can also scale a little bit to get a better shape that matches the front of our vehicle. And for this one, I'll pull it in like that. Excellent. And then we'll do the same here. Pull this out. Actually, let's line it up to our drawing. Scale a little bit. And then we will adjust that one inside. Start getting that to wrap around as well. Back to the body sign. Pull this one down to flow with the hood shape. What I can do is pick edge. I pick these guys. I can pick this first one, and then check this out. If I use add in my selection options, which is found right here, add, which is my right mouse button. I think default it's going to be the middle mouse button. I can hold shift, right click, and then it will chain select the entire row. And then I'll extrude. And for this one, I'm going to scale it basically perfectly flat and then I'm gonna rotate it. Now, a little trick with the rotation is pull the cursor, get the cursor away from the manipulator, and you'll have a lot easier time making fine-tune adjustments to that. And then I'll pull that down. And then for this one, because we want to start rolling a little bit of a shoulder into the car or into the SUV, I'll just pull that one in. And we'll make additional adjustments as we go. And then one last time, I'm gonna pull this one up all the way to the belt line, and I'll pull that in some more to create that shoulder. Now I'll come through here, and I'm just gonna make a couple adjustments just to make sure that we have plenty of room in this area. You know, to have some crown for the hood shape. And we'll pull that out and like that. Pull this one here. Something like that. So let's work on the fascia, the front of the vehicle. I'm gonna use 1 degree curves, and the reason I like 1 degree is I get to really control where the edges or the vertices are placed to control the flow. And we'll do something like that. And I'm gonna extrude. And for this one, I'll switch it back to curves. I'm gonna extrude out. And then we'll just give it a little bit of plan view. And then I'll do that again. And a little bit of plan view. And then I'll come back to this view and see where we ended up. And it looks like just need to pull these back a little bit to give ourselves a little space to create this corner. The best part about all of this is, you know, I don't have to adjust these right now. I could finish this and then go back and adjust, and everything will update and stay nice and smooth and blended. To finish this corner, let's go ahead and we'll pull that in. Just give ourselves a little room there, and we'll just take the bridge, same thing, pick the first edge, shift, right, or for me, add selection, bridge, and then we'll just switch this back to 1. Come to this view, I'm just gonna make a few tweaks up here just to get that to flow a little better. Now the hood will be the exact same. Just gonna snap my first point. For this one, I'm gonna just start off with, let's see, here, yeah. Just wanted to see which one will follow. And this one's gonna flow. Well, I could be wrong on this, but we'll fix it if I am, that's okay. And these ones I'm just going to adjust. Now we're gonna make a few changes in this area. I'm gonna pull this one this direction, and then these two at the base of the A-pillar, because I want that touchdown and the belt line to flow right here and then go up into the A-pillar. So I'll just use our slide. Again, extrude. And I'm gonna extrude this one out to that first row. I'll give it a little plan view and in this direction, and you can see I'll need to make some adjustments here, but that's okay. And then do that again. Adjustments, pull that back a little bit. And then to finish this section off, bridge, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to snap these first. We'll drop this down just to get everything to flow really nice. And it looks like we'll need to pull these guys down too. They're above our hood, so there we go. Just make those adjustments. Great. And then when you have a situation like this, let's see, I could Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the faces here, and I'm going to weld target this point to that one, here to there, that one, whoops, that point to that point. And now we have four-sided patch coming into that area, really nice, clean. Simple as possible. Let's do that to the rear. Let's finish that off. Curve, place these points. Let's make some adjustments here, because we know we'll need to wrap around this corner a little bit. Okay. Extrude in exactly the same global. We'll pull this out. I'm going to look at the front points, those, and line them up. Whoops. I just hit undo on accident. Wanted to back out of that move a little bit. Here we go. We need to add a little plan view. Now I'll bring it back out. And again, I'm going to match the front. And that way everything flows really nicely. Give a little plan view. And then bridge. And because they're exact same number, everything will be quads in this corner. And then if we want, yeah, that's going to be okay for right now. So that's the basics of our body sides, front and rear. To complete the greenhouse, we're going to start at the center line and the exact same steps. Extrude out, and then we'll do the side glass. Now, I like to keep these two parts separate. Some people will blend the windshield into the hood, essentially, and then cut it later. Whereas I like to keep that a positional intersection, and if anything, take the windshield and push it lower to build kind of the cowl area. So for this one, we'll just keep them together. I'm going to split the front windshield glass with just one, what will be an edge. Right at the header, we'll have two. And then from here, I'm going to line these points up with the body side. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in just a second, even though they're going to be separate parts. Rear glass gets one division, and then snap to that edge. And then we'll go back to the extrude. I'm going to switch this to normal, and the reason I'm doing normal, and I could have done this in the front as well, but I want to have just a slight amount of offset equal to give us the crown shape across the center line. So once I have that set, then I'll switch it back to global, and I'm going to match the rows up. And then I'll do that again, switch it to normal, offset just a little bit, go back to global, and then pull basically to align to that one. Now this one, I'm going to do something that's a little unique, where I will start to bend this. And if you want to reset your manipulator, all you do is you switch it to normal, back to global, and I can pull it in something like that. Let's go ahead and snap these to our body, just to get that shape where we start having a lot of plan view around the windshield. And same thing in the rear. Snap those two. And then back here, I just want to make sure I'm straighten this out so that we get a nice transition over that area. Great. Edge loop, select edge loop, go back to normal, and we're going to build the rail from the A pillar to the D pillar. So I'm just going to pull this down a little bit. And then I'm going to take the time to snap and adjust all of these exactly where I want them to make the outline of the glass. You know, maybe some of them need to come down, some might need to go up. These back here, I could straighten them out, but we'll just give a little bit of crown, and that will be fine for right now. Then we'll come to our other views. Oh, when we had done that, we didn't, oh man, we didn't pull these ones in Y. So we'll want to do that. I selected that first point, shift, right click, selects all the points. I'll just bring up my manipulator. No big deal. Completely flexible. There we go. And then I'm going to come to the front view and make any last, changes in this area. And then I'll snap this point to there. Let's just check that out, make sure everything's flowing nice. And then to finish our side glass, now often this is going to be a barrel shape, and you can do that in NURBS and model this to the NURBS. Some people will have a separate subdivision just for the glass as it's offset slightly. For this example, we're just going to keep everything flush, build it all the way to the body side, and then we will unweld the belt line basically. Let's start with bridge. I'll select along the roof line, pick here, shift, right click, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we know those will match. And then we want to add our one division because we're gonna, we have one across the windshield and one across the backlight. And then we'll do next, and we'll come here to here. And for this one, we don't need a division. And then next, and then from here to here, we don't need a division. And then we're left with this triangular piece, but because we have an edge that's cutting through this triangular section, it's actually a 4-sided patch. So I can just bridge across those two and across this one. There we go. And as you can see, let me just hide this. We're going from an unwelded, around with a windshield and the A-pillar touchdown, along with the backlight. Those are unwelded, whereas the side is welded. So we'll need to unweld those. I want to point out one thing. If we unweld and I click on the CV or the vertice, it's going to unweld all 4 quadrants from that. If I unweld the edge, then it just splits those two. So I want to be very careful to click on the edge when I'm unwelding. And now I have a piece that I can add, and I'll just call this greenhouse and a layer, assign, and now we have 2 separate parts for the body and the greenhouse. All quads, everything looks good, and then we can go in there and tweak as needed. Now let's add the light catcher down here near the rocker. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these points at the bottom and just tuck those in a little bit. I could also tuck these guys in to match, and maybe back here. And then I'm going to switch to wireframe, and we want this row to really be up here, right where that break is. So we'll just make those adjustments now. So we used align to surface for the mirror, and that allowed us to have a real planar shape to the mirror where the glass is. For this, I want to be able to control the edge along this for this character line. And I have all these points, and maybe some of them are down and some are up, whatever it is. What I want to do is I can select all of those, align to curve. We'll open the options, 2 degree, which is great. And I'll say for this, I'll do generate curve. And because I have closest, it's just going to snap all those points to the curve. I believe if I switch, uniform, then it tries to equally distribute those along the curve. But we just want closest point, and that way it keeps the topology that we have. But now I have a CV, there's a curve right in the middle where all those were placed. And now I can move that curve, and you can see moving one CV moves the whole row of the topology. So that's great to be able to really snap a really taut line exactly along a character line. And then I'll take that the curve spline, and switch it to my curves now that I have that set up. I need the topology to flow along this light catcher. First things first, let's come here, and I'm going to pick the edge loop around the wheels and just simply crease those. And that way the wheel flat is nice and flat. It has a sharp edge. The simplest way that I found to create these light catchers is to cut and snap to the end point, right where the crease is. Snap here, and I'll just cut these. And I'm basically gonna follow the reflection or the drawing in the background. And then I'll snap to this one. Make a few changes, modifications to get the flow correct. And notice here, we have three four-sided patches. And if we switch to our box mode, we can see that we have formed triangles on either side. Now, you can keep the triangles, but we'll want to convert those into quads. So I'm going to first push all of this in to give it our shape. And then we'll just push that one in a little bit more. And to convert these to quads, all we have to do is cut, and I'm going to drop one right in the middle, cut these across all of these parts, these faces, and end up here. And now when I smooth, you can see that's a four-sided patch, and that shape flows really nicely down here at our character line. And then just like the other pieces that we creased, if I wanted to, I can select, this edge loop and crease that as well to quickly form a light catcher along that lower rocker. The last step, and I want to point this out, we've been working on one half of this SUV. A lot of people only work on one half because it's easier to know that you're not selecting something on the other side on accident. So I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I'll create symmetry, model for a while, I'll delete that so that I can work on one side, but I'll always evaluate it. And we could always put it in a symmetrical layer to see what it will look like as well. Just note that the center line would not have the same flow with the symmetrical layer. At this point, I'm going to select both pieces. We're going to edit, duplicate, mirror across to Y, which is our XZ plane. So we have two separate parts now. And the same thing we did with the gear selector. We're going to weld these together. And we want to make sure that we separate the greenhouse and the body, because if I was just a bounding box across the center line, it will weld the greenhouse to the body. And in this situation, we're going to use tolerance and do the body, and then hide that one, pull up the, whoops. Oh, I thought I had signed it. There we go. Now we have the greenhouse, weld, and weld that. And now we have both sides. Let's hide our canvas. Completed. Very quick, be able to knock out this entire vehicle. And as I mentioned, the topology, the way the topology is laid out for this, you can apply it to any type of vehicle. Luxury sedans, sports cars, SUVs, trucks, you name it. It's generally going to be about the same, depending on the way the character lines require the topology.